Boo Corrigan is the athletic director at NC State, and he joins us on the Adam Gold Show. I was pointing this out, and I pointed it out a lot lately. What a time to be a State fan. Final Fours in both men's and women's basketball last year, another College World Series, a second cheese rolling championship, the Gloucester Cheese Rolling Championship in England. You're doing a great job over there, sir.
Yeah, I can't take credit for the cheese rolling, or really credit for any of it. We got a great group of people here, Adam, and as you said, we got the job that Coach Doran's done. But you look up and down. Our coaches with Lori Hennis winning 3 straight national championships in women's cross country,
yep.
And the job that Kevin and Wes did this year, and Kim Landris and Braden Holloway and Pat Papaluzio, and those are, ACC champions or Final Four, and Elliott going to the College World Series again. As I jokingly said the other day, if you have a child that's 10 years old, all they know is championships. It's a pretty good place to be living.
There's no question. Also, some Olympic hardware as well. I guess not all of it was for USA, right?
Yeah, no. It's I believe we had 9 different countries represented, including the U.S. and preponderance of those would be in swimming. Mm-hmm. But Diana Snyder won a silver medal in the women's doubles in tennis, and just a really exciting time to be a part of it.
Boo Corrigan, athletic director at NC State, is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. So I'm just going to leave the first question open for you, and we'll kind of work off that. As you see the landscape right now in intercollegiate athletics, what do you think the most pressing issue is?
Well, honestly, I think it's whether the judge accepts the settlement, right?
You're talking about House versus the NCAA?
I am. I apologize. Yeah, in the House case, and we'll find out more on September 5th is a date for everyone who's a sports fan or college sports fan to really look at. That's the day where we'll get a preliminary read from the judge on whether to accept the plaintiffs and the NCAA settlement. And that goes to the $2.766 billion going backwards, as well as the 22% of revenue. And think about the revenue in terms of the television, the multimedia rights, the ticket sales, and coming up with an average. And that average we are thinking right now is about $20 million that would be there from a revenue share standpoint. So, once that settlement becomes official, and really it may not be official until March or April of 25 with an implementation of July 1 of 25. But I think that's the one thing that to me is really out there that, maybe some assumptions are being made that it's already settled and already been approved. But, the September 5th date is a really big date. All that being said, I got a T-shirt that someone gave me that says "Change has no off season."
Right.
And boy, does that feel like the case for the last 3 or 4 years.
Boo Corrigan is with us here on the Adam Gold Show. So September 5th, we'll be watching. Are you rooting for one or the other? This does not have to mean that you're against direct payments to athletes, but are you rooting for the judge to toss aside the settlement, or are you cool with how it's already been kind of laid out?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think one of the big concerns that I have is around the settlement. Are there some protections with regards to similar lawsuits that would come forward? Part of this is the idea that, similar cases can't be brought against the NCAA and against college sports. If there's great strength in that piece of it, Adam, I think it makes a lot more sense. The ability, and I've been for our student athletes and being able to maximize their opportunities since this came up. So it's not certainly not against our students and the value they bring, but whether or not we're going to continue to get sued at the rate that we are right now is a big concern.
Yeah, I'm not sure the only way to avoid that isn't some sort of antitrust protection or exemption, rather, that you would have to get through Congress. But I'm not entirely sure that relying on Capitol Hill to, this is probably not the right phrase, bail out college sports. I'm not without the ability to search my brain to come up with a better phrase, I'll just use that. Relying on them probably isn't a great idea.
I think I would talk about it a little bit different. I think college sports is part of the fabric of America, right? And whether that's NC State and the other members of the ACC in the state of North Carolina or East Carolina or App State or Western or Elizabeth City, right? It's part of, and there's districts around the country and around the state where college athletics is really important.
Yep.
And I don't think people want to see it implode, right, and go away. And with some of the lawsuits and growing in numbers, it becomes harder and harder. And really, where it becomes harder and harder, Adam, is the number of opportunities that are available, right? And as those numbers go down, that does affect people and young people, and it affects potentially, the Olympic movement with the number of former student athletes that represented the U.S. and other countries, right, in the Olympics this year. I think it's a bigger picture than, going to Congress hat in hand. I think it's, what can we do moving forward to protect the number of opportunities that are available. We have 550 student athletes, and, I think if you throw in football and basketball, you still got more than 3/4 of them are non-football and basketball players, right? And students. So again, it's about a bigger, broader picture of what's going on. And, we are looking for help from DC in that respect.
Boo Corrigan is joining us here, NC State Director of Athletics. I'm not in any way saying that that's incorrect, that it's not a part of the fabric of the United States. I just my whole point from the beginning has been looking for help from them is probably from Congress. Just it's a long shot. They can't. Well, we all know what the legislative process looks like. We don't. That's for a different show, not a sports show. Boo Corrigan. We can. If I was hosting at a different radio station,
I concur with you. I concur with you on that. This is not.
Right.
This is not a sports topic. That being said, I do think the importance of college sports, and whether it's with the Chamber of Commerce around football and basketball games, and the number of people coming into the community, right, to the hotels, to the restaurants, to everything. It is a part of it, and it's a great point of pride for 225,000+ NC State graduates.
No question.
And the enjoyment they get out of our success and our ability to lift the brand, if you will. And last March, you look at our women's basketball program taking down 3 significant brands in Tennessee and Stanford and Texas, and going to the Final Four, and really men's basketball team to a large degree, kind of captivated the NCAA tournament, right?
Yes.
The joy that they played with, and DJ Burns looked a little bit different than a lot of other people, but I think one of the things that he looked different about was his ability to smile and have fun, and you can see that our players enjoyed each other, enjoyed playing together, and really enjoyed representing this great university.
All right, a couple more things for Boo Corrigan. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I appreciate your time to come on the program. Have you thought, I'm sure you have, because you wouldn't really be as good as your job as you are if you hadn't. Have you thought about how, assuming let's just say September 5th, we're full go with the settlement House versus the NCAA? Have you figured out how you're going to come up with $20 million per year?
We're looking at everything, right? And as you do, the ability to be creative with what you're doing from a revenue standpoint, and what we're not going to do, Adam, and this is a commitment from all of us here, is all of a sudden our ticket prices go up 50%.
Right.
Right. And parking goes up 100%. And we're going to do it from that standpoint on our fans. Are there going to be some increases? Sure there are. But, last time I went to the grocery store, the bill was a little bit more than I feel like it was, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, we've got to be creative with what we're doing. And, does that mean we're looking at, maybe additional events in Carter Finley? I know that, the Rolling Stones have been here in the past.
Yes.
Beyonce's been here in the past. And, could we look at that as a potential revenue stream? How creative can we be from a sponsorship standpoint? Continue to talk to our donors about it. Worry about donor fatigue for sure in what's going on. But one thing we do know for sure is that we are going to be competitive, that we want to be competitive. And, to a large degree, we went through some of this when NIL came about, right? And everyone was very nervous about it. If you look back on last year, I think we managed NIL pretty well, right? And we're going to continue to do the same thing and be methodical in our approach and be creative in our approach and find solutions.
Are Olympic sports in jeopardy at NC State?
We want to be great in everything, right? I mean, you look at the depth of our programs and where we are, and, I talked about it the other day, Braden Holloway, and the job that he's done. And, Braden ends up being one of the assistant coaches on the Olympic team. We end up, Catherine Burkhart, is winning medals, and that's great representation. But, Simon Earnshaw in our women's tennis program, and Pat Papalizio with wrestling, and Kim Landress with gymnastics. And, we've gotten to a point where we are, we are competitive on a national level. We are winning ACC championships. In fact, if you look back in the last 5 years, we have 4 more ACC championships than any other school in the conference. And, our goal is to continue to provide opportunities for young people to compete for championships in the ACC, which means you're competing nationally.
Yeah. I'm not sure you answered the question. So let me just restate it real quick. Cause you might not have the answer to this right now. Are Olympic sports, at least some, to some degree, in jeopardy? If the answer is yes,
you're looking for something, and I did just answer it.
Okay,
and that is we want to be great in everything.
All right.
And if we have 22 sports, we want to be great in 22 sports, and that's been our approach since we got here, is to be in line with our coaches and to provide the support that they're looking for, and continue to move on. The journey of a women's soccer player or men's soccer player or a track athlete, is important to them, and therefore it's important to us. And we've been providing these opportunities, and we look forward to providing them moving into the future.
Would it make sense to restructure college sports to where there was just a whole lot less travel? I know Stanford's in the ACC, but would it make sense for Stanford to not be in the ACC for all the sports not named football? It would of course mean that we couldn't count KatieLedecky's medals. But would it make sense to kind of go back to the old league structure and just let football do its own thing?
I think there could, in time around football, could it look different from a overall structure standpoint? Could it look different from a management of? Yes, I think it could. And in a lot of ways, I think it should. right, and look different.
Yeah.
But then at that point, what happens with men's basketball? What happens with women's basketball? I think, solving one problem and creating two or three or four does not make sense. If you look at our schedule, there's a number of sports in tennis and golf and track and cross country and those that aren't traveling to Stanford or traveling to Cal, and their scheduling is not dependent on the ACC from an overall competition standpoint. But we went through a little bit of this in and around the COVID season and scheduling more regionally, and that becomes part of being creative and part of being solution oriented, is to find ways to make sure that you're maximizing the competitiveness, that you're maximizing the opportunity to compete for championships, while at the same time being smart about how you do that.
Final thing for Boo Corrigan, NC State Director of Athletics. Are you happy to be off the college football playoff selection committee?
You know what? It was a real honor to be a part of that. That being said, I think 3 years is the right amount of time, right, to be on that committee.
Right.
I think the idea of fresh names and thoughts and growth within that committee, would I do it again? Yes, I would. It's a real honor to be, like I said, to be on that committee and, to be that engrossed in college football and in that room with people that share a same passion for it. It was a great thing to be a part of, but 3 years seems like the right number.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up is that the year you're the chair is the first year we really had real controversy. It's been pretty much a cakewalk for everybody else. You get thrown into the deep end with what happened to Florida State. That's why I'm done with this. Let me go watch the game and just enjoy it.
Yeah, I was the chair for 2 years.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
And even with that, what seems like, to the outside, a layup or a 20-yard field goal that everyone's counting on, you're still going through the same process, and you're still making sure that you get it right. And every year that I was on the committee, the 1 year Cincinnati got in as the number 4.
Right.
Seed, and people were upset about that, right? So, there was always a case of people feeling like they, had a good argument, and I can tell you as a committee, we went over it again and again and again, and last year was sure it was the most difficult year that we had on the committee, but, as the spokesperson, you're speaking for 13 people. Right? And 13 people all with the same vote, and we've been able to spend some time together. Being in front of the camera and being that is not always my favorite part of my job, but I did understand what the role was as the chair and hopefully represented the committee well.
Yeah, you have to take all the slings and arrows for everybody else. I appreciate your time, Boo Corrigan, NC State Director of Athletics here on the Adam Gold Show. Appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you soon at a game. It might be a hockey game, but I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Go Pack.
You got it. Boo Corrigan here on the Adam Gold Show.